And they did it by using a rescue technique that's only deployed in the most dire situations. Bryn Gingras now with 5 of New York's bravest who went beyond the call.
This is the type of job you see once in a 20-year career.
As a Manhattan apartment building ignited in flames, more than 200 members of the FDNY raced toward it. These 5 men among them.
The roof was on fire. There was fire coming out of the shaft. There was fire like all around us.
The firefighters never met before, but that day, an 81-year-old man trapped in his home brought them together.
Frank called me and told me that we had a guy at the window.
My thought was possibly an off-fire escape to try to get to him, but as you saw in the photos, there was no rear fire escape in this old law tenement.
I just grabbed the rope, dumped the rope under the roof, and then that's when Andy and Steve came up, and Joe, and we just went to work.
A rope rescue is a dangerous technique which hasn't been attempted by this department in 5 years because it's considered a last resort by firemen's standards, but one they knew they had to do. Within seconds, Jim Lee was being lowered down, scaling the burning building.
Go to your right.
He was burning, and at one point you could hear him yelling, burning. And I just remember like sort of seeing him looking up at me with that hood up, and I just said to him, let's go.
With the rope holding them beginning to burn,
Okay, lower him down. Nice and easy, guys. Nice and easy. Lower him down.
the team of firefighters successfully lowered the 2 men to safety.
Okay, good. We're down.
Seconds before the rope snapped.
We're looking back up and seeing the fire now out the windows. The rope was on fire, and the reality really set in that, wow, we really just we saved a guy's life. I mean, legitimately, a group of guys worked together in seamless fashion and saved this guy's life, and what a feeling.
That feeling came again.
You look familiar.
When the firefighters met the man they saved, Jim Duffy.
So again, I said, thank God. It was a miracle. Of course, I called it a miracle on 93rd.
All right, well, that's a good catchphrase.
Yeah,
I like it.
It was.
They'll take it away from you.
Yeah.
We deal with a lot of tragedy in this job, and through the course of a career, more tragedy than you'd like to ever see. And this was definitely a win for everybody.
Bryn Gingras, CNN, New York.
What a great moment for all of them.
Awesome.
All right, President-elect Donald Trump's transition team very, very publicly feuding over the top contenders for Secretary of State. Publicly.
Okay.
Very. Trump senior advisor Kellyanne Conway stirring the pot with some tweets. Want to discuss this with CNN political commentator, former National Press Secretary for Bernie Sanders, Simone Sanders, and CNN political commentator and the host of the Ben Ferguson Show, Mr. Ben Ferguson. And Ben, let me just say, that right now, in terms of the public approval of the transition, 46% say they approve, 45% disapprove. Those numbers perfectly in line, and in some cases actually a little better than past transitions. But there is this thing that has developed the last few days during this transition, which is highly unusual, and that's the public campaign over Secretary of State, and now people going negative against the idea of Mitt Romney, including Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway, who's gone to Twitter with some pretty harsh tweets about Romney. She said, receiving deluge of social media and private comms re Romney, some Trump loyalists warn against Romney as Secretary of State. Isn't this pretty unseemly to have this kind of public battle at this level about a nomination that the president-elect will make?
Well, look, I think it's actually good that you have somewhat of a transparent and blunt conversation about a position this big. I also think you're talking about something that would be, I think, unprecedented in politics. Mitt Romney's biggest speech of the last 2 years was when he came out and had a 40-minute diatribe against Donald Trump. There are a lot of people around Donald Trump going, why would you pick that guy? Now, to Donald Trump's credit, what he seems to be doing is saying, hey, I'm going to let the past be the past. If people are qualified for a position, whether it's Nikki Haley or Mitt Romney, I'm going to look at them, and I may even offer them a position because I don't care about the past. I want the best people in positions where I think they can serve this country and serve my administration well. So from that standpoint, I think it's actually encouraging. A lot of people were worried Trump was going to have a political hit list where if you were against him, you'd never work again anywhere close to him. That obviously is not the case, so I'm okay with there being a grand debate over Mitt Romney. I'm not a huge fan of Mitt Romney, but I think having this debate is worth the time.
How do you feel about it, Simone?
public nature of the debate is what concerns me, and I think those 45% of Americans that necessarily don't approve of the process. We're seeing an apprentice-like process, very reality TV-esque. And we know Mr. Trump comes from that world, and so it shouldn't be a surprise that that's how he's running his transition team. I also think it's really prefer if we would just bring a little bit of decorum back to the office. And, you know, I think it's great to have a debate. Perhaps an internal debate would be better so it doesn't spill out into the public, and the public's trust isn't necessarily eroded with this process.
I suppose.
I don't think it's a trust issue. I think the transparency here and how blunt this conversation is in public is actually what the American people want. They want to know why decisions are being made and how they're being made. Donald Trump is showing that right now. When you do things in quiet with no public debate, I mean, Donald Trump has to be looking at what other people are saying right now, Mitt Romney. I would rather him hear it on the front end before he officially says, you're my guy or not, than it come after the fact going, man, I wish I would have known that this many people were unhappy with me.
Normally, then, what you do is you tell it to Donald Trump, right? You don't necessarily...
Instead of going through Twitter and television and smoke signals.
Yeah, I mean, let me just say this. He's unorthodox. We all know that. So for me, this is not as shocking. Now, if it was another campaign like Mitt Romney's campaign, for example, and if he would have been elected, yes, that would be shocking. But for Donald Trump, this to me, it seems exactly what I expected after he was elected.
It seems like the bar is low for Mr. Trump and his transition team, and I think that's not okay. I think a debate is fine, but the public nature of the debate, I definitely think, is dangerous. The decorum to the office is slowly being eroded with the parading of these candidates in and out of Trump Tower, in and out of Bedminster, New Jersey. So I definitely think there is a time and a place for this, and this isn't the place or the time.
You know, I'm with you. I'm with you on the decorum, but I also understand the transparency, and a lot of Americans appreciate that. I think that's a huge reason why a lot of people elected Donald Trump. But I also, though, hang on a second, tell me how you really feel. And maybe I don't want the job.
Yeah. Look, Mitt Romney's in an awkward situation because, one, Mitt Romney's put his entire political future on being anti-Trump, and then all of a sudden you get this phone call, and you got to be scratching your head going, what did I do so right to get this phone call, and what is happening here? So if anyone right now should be sweating a little bit, it's probably Mitt Romney, because he's going to look to many like a total sellout if he takes this job.
Well, I don't think maybe Mitt Romney wants to serve the country. I mean, maybe Mitt Romney thinks he could be a good Secretary of State and thinks it would be an honor to be asked to do such a thing.
Of course it is, but still, if you look at the words that he came out and said, and the biggest speech he's given in 2 years was anti-Trump, and to then take a job with Donald Trump, there's people around Mitt Romney that I know well, they're sitting there going, what are you doing? You put all of it on the line against this guy. He offers you a job, and now you're going to take it? Did you not believe what you were saying back then? So it goes back to a little bit of that.
Doesn't Mitt Romney get to be as unorthodox as Donald Trump every once in a while? You're just praising Donald Trump for being unorthodox. Maybe Mitt wants to try it out.
I'm fine with it. I'm saying there's people around him, though, that I'm sure are scratching their head right now going, how do we get to this situation where you were this anti-Trump and now you're willing to work with him? I think he would probably make a great Secretary of State if he does get the job. And he obviously has a lot of connections around the world, and the way that he was able to deal with the Olympics is a perfect example of how his demeanor can work well. And I think that would serve this country in a positive way. The big question is going to be, when there are disputes, you know, is he going to be able to take the leadership of Donald Trump and say, okay, I'm going to implement this? Because from his words, there's a lot of people that are worried, is he going to be able to be totally loyal to Donald Trump?
Well, I would...
Simone Sanders, we are always honored to have you and both of your decorums here, so thanks so much for being with us. Great to see you. Happy Thanksgiving to both of you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
It's not like it's been a full-on Trump kumbaya when it comes to a lot of these folks he's chosen also, by the way.
All right, we're following a lot of news. Let's get right to it.
This is CNN Breaking News.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this special holiday edition of New Day. It is